A few years ago, for no particular reason, I decided to go see the elementary school I attended growing up. It's abandoned now, and I remember how strange it felt to walk around the playground over 20 years later. For years, this place existed only as a memory to me, and that memory was captured as a 4'0" kid. But seeing this place as a 6'2" grown man made me realize just how much bigger and frightening the world was then. I felt like a giant walking around the pavilion where the buses once picked us up. The towering coliseum that once was the gymnasium was suddenly just any other building. The sidewalk was narrower, the door handles were lower, the swings I used to stand on, I could barely even fit 1 foot onto now. It was a bizarre feeling to find myself too big to fit in a memory. This place could never again be what existed in those nostalgic recollections. It would never, could never be quite the same. And I think that sensation is what makes this particular video game sequence so brilliant.
Wait, me and my mom lived here. This is our living room.
When you first walk into this person's childhood apartment, at first glance, it's any other lived-in apartment. Cheap wallpaper, lackluster bathroom, some drawings and pictures hung up on the wall, a few dirty dishes left on the table, some medicine left out on the counter. After you read this journal entry, the bedroom door opens, and you make your way into the bedroom. Very PT. Now the apartment is in much worse shape. The table is littered with old takeout boxes and drinks that whisper terrible childhood memories to this person.
Why won't you listen to a damn thing I say?
Discarded beer bottles and old trash bags invade the space like little intruders. It's dark now. There are more pills on the counter. As your eyes drink in the details of this scene and read another journal entry, you realize that time has passed. Things have changed desperately in this household. The bedroom door opens, and this time it does lead you into the bedroom. And after another journal entry and noting the disarray the room is left in, you turn to leave, and then... Wait, when did... Is that door handle at eye level? And all at once you realize how low to the ground you are. It doesn't just happen suddenly, it's gradual. You try to pinpoint the moment it happened or how you missed this obvious change, but much like when you're in a dream, you can't remember when exactly this all began. You're suddenly just here, in the thick of it. And it's at this moment you realize how brilliant this sequence is. It's not just that this character is revisiting a place that was significant to her, like when I visited my old school, she now fits in this memory. It's exactly as it was when she originally experienced this trauma, and now you get to feel as small and helpless as she did. The world becomes large and frightening again. In a third pass through the apartment, she now helplessly looks up at the crooked pictures of her family. The fly-infested trash bags fully tower over her. Why is that one moving? The pills and booze are now right in front of her face, a constant reminder that mommy is not okay. She's closer to the trash on the floor. Her drawings from earlier were so low you painfully realize because they were hung up there by her. And without telling you how this sequence ends for the sake of respecting spoilers, all of the foreshadowing in the details culminates as you crawl into her closet, not viewing the world as an adult, but as a terrified child. It's a subtle change that takes what could have been a representation of a memory and turns it into an uncomfortably intimate experience of one. This is a 5-minute sequence in Silent Hill: The Short Message, a game you likely bounced off of. It was very hit or miss, and having played it, the critiques are warranted. The chase scenes are tedious, the dialogue is a bit on the nose, the themes it tackles are important, and I do think it's a story that deserves to be told, but it certainly felt like at times it was written about a generation by another generation, which leaves it coming off as though the game is trying to be relatable without fully doing so. It's a wonderful effort, but by every definition, The Short Message is flawed. Except for this beautifully done sequence. And it's moments in games like these that I find myself recalling both fondly and regretfully, because they are tucked away in games that many people completely dismiss based on a review or a passing negative comment. Maybe they even tried it, but just dropped it because the experience was so rocky that they had no motivation to go and discover that vein of gold. But having finished many an imperfect game, I find myself giddy when I stumble upon something amazing despite everything else. Sometimes I find a flawless sequence in a flawed game. And today, I want to take you on a tour of some of these perfect moments. With as little context as possible to respect spoilers, of course. There are timestamps if you check the timeline bar down here. There are certainly more than what I mention here that either I don't have footage for or that I'll conveniently remember after this video goes live, but these are a handful of sequences that don't just tell you a story, they let you experience it firsthand and illustrate something incredible through the gameplay itself. Which is not unlike how today's sponsor, Brilliant, works. Learning is often extremely one-dimensional. There is a fact in a textbook, then you memorize it until you can readily recall it or apply it in an exam. But Brilliant is where you learn by doing. With thousands of interactive lessons in math, data analysis, programming, and more, Brilliant doesn't just throw concepts at you and expect you to memorize them. It opens by letting you play with that concept and begin to chew on it first, then clarifies what might not be clear. Once upon a time, I talked about something called the generation effect on this channel, and that is exactly what makes Brilliant so effective. When you play with information, you learn it. Brilliant is on the go as well, so instead of pumping a few passive moments every day into that new gacha game or doom scrolling, you can use that time to develop a powerful daily learning habit which can jumpstart a mountain of personal and professional growth. You can find beginner-friendly lessons in data science and analysis, hands-on peeks into programming and essential coding elements. There is a comprehensive range of math courses built on the most essential and applicable math concepts. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you'd like to try everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/DarylTalksGames or use the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Give it a try, invest in your mind and your well-being. Thanks again to Brilliant for the sponsor. Now back to the show. One little change in the camera height was enough to make that sequence in the short message as special as it was. But our next sequence is special because it makes a ton of changes back to back. It should be overwhelming, it shouldn't work, but boy, it really does. My favorite tutorial in gaming might just be in Nier Replicant. And this is a game that I have been publicly hard on before. I don't like that it makes you play multiple times to get the true ending. I don't enjoy how much busy work the side quests are filled with. Many people simply don't get it. It's wildly cryptic and weird at times. It'll always be little brother to Automata. But the tutorial, in some ways, is the opening lines of a poem that perfectly sets up the themes that this game is trying to communicate. Snow falls on an abandoned city. It is hopelessly cold out, but it is also summer. You know 3 facts about this boy. 1, he despises this book. 2, he fiercely wants to protect his sister. And 3, when danger strikes, he is willing to ignore the first fact because of the second. Initially, you are told how to block and attack, but after losing a fight the game will not let you win, the boy calls upon the power of the book. And it's here that you'll find a tutorial unlike any other. You're told that you can now use Dark Hand, which is exactly what it sounds like. Now, with 3 commands at your disposal, you start fighting. Suddenly, you level up. Okay, we're off to the races. That feels nice. And so you fight and play with the tools you've been given, and wow, level 3 already. Now you have a Dark Blast on another button. The music shifts from a cappella as a few subtle drums enter the song. New enemy types enter as well. You're told that by holding buttons to charge your attacks, this will alter their effects and it can be done at any point during a combo. But it should be noted that at no point does this game force you to do any of this. It just lets you know it's there. And so you continue to play, mowing down everything in front of you with the arsenal of magic the book is providing. You level up again and again. Dark Execution has now replaced Dark Hand. Ghostly black spears burst from the ground in every direction, skewering enemies from below, leaving them open for more attacks. String and brass instruments now overpower the voices in the song, and it becomes a bombastic war hymn. At level 7, you're told how to evade. More enemies come, but your skill is rising to meet the challenge. both the artificial skill in the form of levels and tools, and your actual comfort with the controls. You're starting to enjoy yourself. You're starting to experiment with the magic and see how many enemies you can kill at once. Dark Execution becomes Dark Lance, another trick to perform, and boy, it is delightful. Now you can bludgeon these things from a distance. Again, you're not forced to use it. The game lets you realize where it's best applied. Around level 10, you're met with a large enemy that, once defeated, will flood you with experience, skyrocketing your level to 30. This opening act spoils you with sweet nothings in video game language to let you know how wonderfully you're doing and how magnificent this should feel. It's an early power trip, a tutorial and a preview of the kind of strength you can expect to have once the game really unfolds. These weapons simply let you choose to feel powerful, almost too powerful, almost cruel. But because of the blood-pumping soundtrack, the juicy offensive abilities, and the very clear video game reinforcement, you forget about that cruelty. When the enemies finally stop coming, you sort of remember, oh yeah, this is about protecting your sister. If you've played this game, you know how marvelous a job this tutorial does at laying the foundation of this game's meaning. This opening act, through the medium of a video game, perfectly illustrates the tragedy of Nier Replicant, the joy of taking revenge while being haunted by the implications of finding thrill in such malice, the distaste for evil while also admitting that for the ones you love, you'd embrace it. Nier Replicant is a flawed game, unquestionably, but this first act might just be the perfect way to start it. Cloaking yourself in cruelty feels harrowing in Nier Replicant. That is of course the point of the narrative, to draw attention to what video games and what sometimes the real world necessitates. But another game that tackles this theme much differently is Ghost of Tsushima. And of course, Ghost is not the best open world game you'll ever play. It's gorgeous, but you might find it tedious and repetitive. You might find it style over substance. You might see it as just another AAA game, and you'd have every right to feel that way. It too is a flawed game. And while it does draw parallels with Replicant's message, through its gameplay it communicates something else entirely. Instead of illustrating how good cruelty may feel and then making you feel bad about it later, it instead makes that cruelty feel cathartic and justified. Jin's uncle tells him early on that winning is inhuman unless it is done honorably. You look a man in the eye when you kill him, but it's clear that this way is not going to win them this war. At this rate, Jin's homeland will not survive the Mongol invasion. And this is echoed in the gameplay itself. Playing honorably in many situations is suicide because of how desperately outnumbered you are. If you can pick off a camp one man at a time without being noticed, you're going to have much smoother sailing than if you approach the front gate and challenge the Mongols head on. And so the game creates this beautiful conflict that you actually experience firsthand when you play, not just when you watch cutscenes. There is honor, but that's just an ideal. War is not ideal. Realistically, there is this urge to defy your uncle and play dirty with the Mongols because in many ways it feels justified. The game rides this tension through the narrative until you must defend Yarikawa. And it's here that Ghost of Tsushima offers you what might be a flawless sequence. During the Mongols' siege of Yarikawa, you and some townsfolk will fight off the invaders. And it plays like any other sequence in the game. There is combat, you run over to an objective marker, there is a section that offers you some stealth kills, and you finally make your way back to a confrontation with a Mongol general. All very routine, you win the sword fight, but something is different this time. A handful of Mongols watch as their general is clearly beaten. They slowly approach, and seeing this, being the honorable man that he is, Jin begins to reason with the men, offering them mercy and to spare their general if they will simply leave this. Oh, fuck. Yeah, there was no negotiation.
Invaders! Look at your general! Run! This will be your fate! People of Yarikawa, hunt every Mongol to the last man! Spare no one! Oyarikawa! Oyarikawa!
There's really not much for me to narrate here, is there? I kind of edited it out there for dramatic effect, but this is where you unlock Ghost Stance, which is essentially a bloody Mario superstar that lets you mercilessly slaughter for a few seconds, striking fear into the hearts of the men watching. It is a triumphant moment, maybe not full sequence, I admit, that the game spends marinating with the last remaining thread of honor Jin has been holding on to that you've been quietly screaming for him to release. And in a moment of calm rage, he does. Top all of this off with this scene immediately after running off the Mongols, and this was such a powerful, cathartic, electrifying, and maybe even flawless sequence. When you are told a story, how is it done? Someone describes a lovely evening to you. Maybe they show you a picture of that night and you fill in the blanks with your imagination. Maybe the details are relayed to you in a novel and you construct that mental image in your mind as you read. Maybe you drink it all in at 60 frames per second in 4K with crystal clear audio. Maybe it's in a theater, maybe it's on a stage. In some ways, it kind of feels like we've seen it all, right? How else could a story be told? There is a sequence in 1000 Times Resist that, the best way I can put it is, it tells a story in a way I've never really seen before. And I don't mean the game's story, by the way. This sequence will actually spoil very little, if any, of the actual plot. It's not what happens in this tiny segment of the game that matters as much as how it's communicated that I'm enamored with. So don't fret spoilers too much here. Though you should totally play this. I'm going to talk about it way more next year. You arrive at an underground station and are greeted by a field of cadavers. It feels like a crime scene, and upon seeing this, questions begin to flourish like weeds in your mind. Why are there only 2 guns? Why is this spattering of blood older and separate from the one on the wall? Why is this body so far from the others? What exactly happened here? And in many games, these questions would be answered by conventional means. You'd find a text log or a cryptic audio file outlining the tragedy that took place. You'd activate a hologram that showed you how everything came into its final resting place. Most likely, you'd see a flashback cutscene that offered up some clarity. But 1000 Times Resist instead offers you the chance to view the events that happened here as slides overlaying reality. A book where each page is a single moment in this physical space. You walk around this station, piecing together motivations and feelings and personalities and hopes, but because these folks you're studying aren't yet at their final resting place, it feels like you're watching these events re-ravel back to reality, almost like a tape measure pausing as it coils back together. Seeing these moments in the space they took place gives it a strangely personal feeling. You don't smash cut to a new scene, you have to physically walk to where it took place. Folks move and have conversations in secret. The architecture of the station is every bit as much a character as the folks conversing are. It adds a certain level of real suspense and dread when you snap to a new page and find someone running and another one slouched, defeated against the wall. More questions sprout up. Something has gone terribly wrong. Just like these people did in this moment, you must witness the horror unfolding in the same place they did. You take cues from their body language and act as they would have until you finally hear why. Helplessly, you see panic rise and watch how these lost souls react. There is more running for some reason. What's going on now? And then you see it. No matter how much you try, no matter how much faster you are than every other suspended ghost in the room rushing to help, no matter how tethered to the space you feel as they did, this has already happened. You know how it ends. Much of 1000 Times Resist is structured like this. You explore moments in time to learn more about the people involved. But this is the one I chose to talk about because, to me, it made the best use of the space as part of those memories. The desperation and helplessness I felt here is so unique compared to what any regular flashback would have achieved, so it had to be this one. Despite how dark and terrible these events are, to me, the way it was done is flawless. And I know this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you that this game is flawed, and maybe it is. It's a visual novel with more steps. That's the best I can do. I'm kind of cheating with this one. Please play this. To wrap this video up, I want to end on a less depressing example. I want to tell you about the sequence that I often refer to as the coolest level in a game I've ever played. I kind of didn't care for Control when I played it back in 2020. This was well before I ever touched Alan Wake, and I just really didn't get it. The world you explore doesn't fold back into itself in interesting ways like a Metroidvania map or a Zelda dungeon typically would. You just kind of go to new locations and then come back. Combat is hit or miss. Flying around should be fun, but it gets in the way just as often as it adds to the experience. The story was beyond me, and for some reason this one area always spit me back out when I tried to enter. But after getting this cassette player from the janitor and popping it on as I entered, the ashtray maze opened up. Hallways began to rebuild themselves in the right direction. Designer shoes sat before every door. Stained wood columns and boards clipped in and out of reality to reveal a fully furnished foyer. Enemies stood down the way. Endless columns of doors scrawled up the walls, and that furniture quickly became ammunition. And with each new room, this song moved into a new section. It went from the introductory instrumentals right into the first verse as I entered this lobby. And I slowly realize as I fight that the lyrics are exactly about the plot. Once that room was cleared, seamlessly the song slips into an early bridge as this wall drops. Something is changing here. For a few moments, I wander through this area as the walls shuffle themselves around me, constantly showing me the path forward as this haunting melody lulls me through this dreamlike puzzle box of carpet and wallpaper. And as the bridge comes to a close, I see some enemies, but the maze doesn't spring them on me. It just reveals them, then morphs to provide me with a better place to attack from. The music is somehow speaking to it. And as I move into a new room with more enemies, the song kicks up and leads back into the chorus to better complement the combat. I've never seen a level in a video game dance with the music quite as harmoniously as it does here. Upholstery goes flying, feathers and smoke and ethereal energy paints the air as the guitar riffs and the vocals slice into my soul like my attacks slice into the corrupted soldiers. It's fucking incredible! After this room is cleared, I slip into this hallway as the song eases into another bridge. There's an enemy, but the maze protects me. More enemies, but again, the maze transforms to match the serenity of the song and keep Jesse safe. It missed one, but... And as I enter this final column to the exit, the song wraps up one last time for one last chorus. I finish off these final enemies, ascend to the exit, and as I walk out of the maze, I notice that the song has changed.
That was awesome.
This was honestly the sequence that saved the game for me. I remember being so love-struck with how insane it was that Remedy would have an entire power ballad written and produced for one level this late in the game that many players wouldn't even get to. It was so silly and cheesy, yet so seamless and so masterfully done that it was the kind of excitement that you just have to tell someone about, you know? Do you know how long I've been waiting to talk about it in a video? This is the part where I tell you that I really wrote this whole thing just so I could talk about the ashtray maze. I've never played a level that felt more alive, and damn it, it is flawless. And I think that's what makes all of these segments so special, that they, in a way, make the game you are playing feel alive. They weave the gameplay and the narrative together so masterfully that you are reminded why video games are so unique as a medium. And it's because moments like these do hide inside games that might otherwise just be fine, and it's because of sequences of this magnitude of elegance have to somehow weather the storm of reviews and negative opinions and dismissive attitudes that I felt like this video needed to get made. It wasn't just to celebrate these wonderful moments, it was to remind you that they exist and they deserve to be discovered. There is value in a flawed game, just like there is value in flawed people. All you really have to do is give them a chance. Hey there, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you letting me make kind of an easier video this month since I had a little less time to work with due to the holidays. I have some much deeper dives and emotional roller coasters coming next year, so buckle up. It's gonna be a hell of a year. Let me know a sequence in a game you consider flawless down below. Like, share, subscribe, and if you want to support the show as well as get access to a pile of monthly bonus content, for $1 a month you can join my Patreon. A special thanks to this month's featured patrons. I Like Shiny, Taka SDF33, Never Lupus, For Bridal, Kenko, Bonbow Boy, Katarina, and Ben Rule. Thanks so much for 6 amazing years of doing this. You all make all the hard work well worth it. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and please have yourself a damn good one.
So you have chosen then. The endless now.